What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition, another episode of the Talkin Shift podcast. Listen, I am your host, your favorite host, hopefully, Destry Brandon, aka Mr. No Luck at it. I got the man of the house, right? We're just gonna call him the man of the house. I got my pastor here with me, Pastor Jordan Bartlett, aka Coach J. AKA JB said it. How you feeling today?
Man, we good, man. We good. Today has been, man, it's been busy, but it's been so productive, man. Yeah, man, we getting to it.
Absolutely. So listen, I'm gonna let Pastor Day tell y'all what to do next. But before we get into that, listen, I need y'all to get a notepad and a pencil or a pen or something, because it's going down something crazy today. We got some special guests for y'all today. And yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. It's just going down something crazy. So go ahead and tell them what they need to do.
So first and foremost, man, you gotta hit the like, okay? You gotta hit the share. Special instructions for our YouTube family, man. We know the likes and the shares and things work a little different on the YouTube. So I need special instructions for y'all. If you're watching on YouTube, on a device, man, go ahead and copy that link. Hit the share, copy the link. Be intentional. Send it to somebody specific, okay? Copy that link, paste it either to your Facebook page as a status, as a post. Send it to somebody through text message. Be intentional with it. If you're watching on YouTube from your TV, your smart TV, just pull out your phone real quick. Either copy the link on YouTube or go to Facebook real quick, hit the like, hit the share, so that we can get these engagements and interactions where they need to be. And last but not least, I'm going to be the first one to say it. Destry's going to remind y'all throughout. Man, put some fire signs in the chat, man, if y'all are excited to be here tonight. And if you hear anything that brings value to you, man, go ahead and put the fire sign in there.
Yeah, you need to drop them right now, because it's about to go down something crazy. Y'all know how we do. I got to hit the drops real quick, just real quick. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a special episode today. Okay, so we introduced a new segment last week.
For sure.
Right? Straight from the Pastor's Desk segment, if y'all remember, we used to do a podcast called Straight from the Pastor's Desk, right? But like I said, y'all pastor, he's on the streak of just going crazy. These last, I don't know how many weeks this been. He just been going crazy, right? So I'm gonna play this clip, and then we're gonna break this down. And then we're going to get to the pod. We're going to get into the pod.
Get to a place where you don't need to know how God is going to do it. I'm trying to get to the place, y'all. I ain't there yet. I'm trying to get to the place, y'all, where I don't even want to know how God's going to do it. I don't want to. God, because what I'm learning is you got to be able to focus on one thing at a time. And if I'm worried about how God is handling you, then I can't be worried about what God is doing for me. So God, I don't even want to know what's going on over there. They ain't got nothing to do. So when you call me and be like, hey, did you hear about such and such? Sure didn't. Ain't got nothing to do with that. And did you see that on the subject? Nope, sure didn't. That ain't got nothing to do with me. Because I don't even want to know how God's going to do it. You got to trust in Christ. So watch this.
Listen, y'all pastor hate hearing his own voice. I'm over here looking at him right now. He hate hearing his own voice. This segment does not go well for him at first, right? He hates it. I'm over here looking at him. He's like, he's just zoned out. But I thought that clip was very important as we're talking this shift in the year, right? This is the year of the shift for those of y'all who are just tuning in with us. Listen, we got people. Somebody dropped last week. They was in, where was they at?
Oh man, they were in it was somewhere over in the Middle
Pakistan,
East. Yeah,
something
it was like
Pakistan
or something like that. Yeah.
Shout out to all the overseas viewers right now.
That's crazy.
But this is the year of the shift, right? This year, God is just shifting things in our lives. We're opening ourselves up to whatever shifts God wants to do, right? And when you got on the point of trust God, right? And then you were saying something like, you don't even want to know. You know what I'm saying? You just want to focus on whatever the task in front of you is. You don't even want to know what God is doing. What brought you to that point, number one, and why is that important as we go into the year of the shift?
So first of all, context is important. So let's not forget, I hope I said I'm getting to that place.
Oh yeah, you did say that in the
I
beginning.
have not yet arrived.
You
I'm
did
getting
say
to
that.
place, and it's just really because, man, like, I've been saying the last couple of weeks, like, we need to be focused on our end, and let God focus on God's end.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like once we start putting our hands in what God is doing, it's automatically contaminated. So, you know, I don't even want to cross that lane. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I don't even, and even as it pertains to my prayers for other people, right? Like I'm going to pray for you and I'm going to be sincere with the prayer. But like my prayer is more so about outcome, not process. You know what I'm saying? Like that's God's responsibility. Yeah. Process is God's responsibility, man. And so just quick example, you know what I mean? If and I think I've used this before, like if somebody gets a cancer diagnosis and the doctor tells you you only got a year and you live 10 years, like to me that's just as much of a miracle as if the cancer just disappeared. Right? So like the process is not up to me. God will sustain you in the process. Like that's his job. That's not our job. So I'm trying to get to the place where I'm like, okay, God, like let me just focus on what you put before me so that I'm not getting in your business, because once I get in your business, it then affects my business. Yeah. So, you know, that's where we're trying to get to.
Absolutely. Listen, I ain't got nothing to add to it. Listen, he did all he had to do for that one. But I do think that's super important as we go into this year of the shift, because you also said in that same sermon, like, it's going to look different for other, you know, everybody's shift isn't going to look the same. You said for some people, this could be the best year. For some people, this may be one of the most challenging years. Yeah. But regardless of which side of the spectrum you're on, the trust is the thing that's in the middle regardless.
The interesting thing about even trusting God in that space is like they both can happen in the same year. Yeah. Ooh. Like this can be the most challenging year you've ever faced. Absolutely. And the best year you've ever had in the same year. Yeah. Like it can be in the same year, but we got to trust God on that. Like that's that part, how that all plays out, like that's on him, not us.
Yeah, listen, y'all pastor on fire already, so I got to hit the, you know, I got to drop. All right, so tonight we're talking environment, right? Last week we talked about language. I feel like we might have did our thing last week. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to pat our own back, but you know what I'm saying? I can reach it. So I'm gonna go ahead and do it. But environment, right? And I don't know if I put this on the board, you put this on the board, but I wanted to. First of all, I wanted to get us some token points, right? Okay. Because we're both married men, right? And when we talk about environment, I feel like for both of us, having our wives really helped us in our lives, right? I mean, I feel like we should get some type of points for that, right? Just listen, if my wife is listening right now, you feel me? Like, you feel me? I need some points. But in all seriousness, like, I know my wife has been like home for me, right? And what I mean by that is, I heard before Kanye West started wilding out, right? he has said that a house is what you go to, right? What you live in, but home is your family, home is your wife, home is your kids, right? And I know for me, like no matter what's going on, she's always been that. Even when we were just dating as kids, you know what I'm saying? She's always been the one centerpiece in my environment that keeps me grounded or keeps me focused or keeps me striving for something. Why is it important to have the right people in your environment, right? I know that sounds like very simple, but I feel like for this year of the shift, it's super important to put emphasis on that.
Yeah, I don't think anybody would argue that having the right people in your environment is essential. Right. I think probably where some of the confusion comes in on like, what does that even look like, right? So in a real sense, like I'll speak to where I am right now in life. There are people around me right now that take more from me than they give, right? Not maliciously, right? We're not talking about like, but just the nature of our relationship is, you know, I pour out to them more than what they give to me.
Right.
Which is okay because I also have relationships where it's the opposite. Yeah. Right? Like I have relationships where I know that this person has more to offer me than I do them.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think when we talk about having the right people around us, like we got to understand that having the right people doesn't necessarily mean that everybody around you is super successful and everybody around you is solidified in their Christian walk and everybody around you, like that's an unrealistic expectation, right? So having the right people around you is who am I, and essentially that's what discipleship is, right? Like discipleship is a cycle. So once you become a disciple, you should be discipling someone and you should be being discipled by someone, right? So having a balance of those things is very important. It's very important to have, people who are super optimistic, and then it's very important to have people that are a little, I wouldn't say pessimistic, but are a little more realistic, right? Like what are the facts? What's the reality? What's the most likely thing to happen? But then you need those people that'll push those limits and push those boundaries and encourage you to be like, hey, listen, just because it's never been done don't mean it can't be, right? Like, so I think that's super important. And y'all have heard me say before, one of my favorite books, especially as of recently, is Willpower Doesn't Work. And that just speaks to environment. It's like when you don't have the willpower to do certain things, if you've created an environment for that, then you'll be able to push through the I don't feel like it because the environment is already conducive to that. So environment is huge, man.
Absolutely. Listen, you said that was layered, right? Because one thing that I got from what you said is like, you got some people, like you said, that it's not one of them things where they're being like parasitic. Right. You know what I'm saying? It's not intentional. Like that's just the nature of the relationship. You're a pastor, coach. But then you, on the other side of the spectrum, you may have some people where you get coaching from or pastoring from or whatever. So one thing that I wrote down is like, it's not equal giving, but it's equal sacrifice.
For sure.
You see what I'm saying?
For sure.
And I think that's super important when we're evaluating relationships, because sometimes it is a parasite. Like I love, I don't remember who said this, but I don't know if I read it, listened to it, I don't know, but somebody said that there's no such thing as a neutral relationship. People are either taking or they're adding. You see what I'm saying? So I think it's important as we look at our relationships, look at our environment, because you almost can't talk about environment without talking about relationships, that we look at, is it equal sacrifice? Not necessarily equal giving, because everybody can't add to your life the way that you're adding to theirs. And if you're looking for that, your character might be a little off. You know what I'm saying? But equal sacrifice. Also, I love what you said about, I can't remember exactly how you said it, but it reminds me of a quote that says, every man needs a king to serve and a giant to slay. Right? And that means like on one end, I'm over here serving, and on the other end, I'm over here building, and I got some people over here that's going to help me do this, and I'm over here helping them do that.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? And I honestly look at that in a way of even here at the church, right? Like, even though regardless, I feel like I would go to a church, you know what I'm saying? But we specifically chose here because of the mission that God has for you. You feel what I'm saying? Like, I believe in you. Like, I believe in what God has put for you to do. So I'm here to serve in that aspect, serve a king. And then I'm also building something on my own. But I don't know that I could do that if I'm not in the environment of this. You see what I'm saying?
Interesting.
Like, I don't know if how you feel about that or if I'm right about that, but I don't feel like I can go out there and do that if I'm not in an environment like this.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to speculate, but I think that there's some accuracy to that. There's some truth to that. I mean, like you started off the conversation talking about our wives, right? Like, so if I'm not married to Lakia, I think I still have a degree of success. I think that, I still be, pretty decent guy, but I'm not Pastor J.
Right. Yeah.
Like, I'm not Pastor J without Lakia.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't even know that I go into ministry without Lakia. You know what I'm saying? So I think that, God orchestrates when the Bible talks about You know, before you were formed in your mother's womb, I knew you, and I predestined you. Like that's not only about you, right? Like that's the ripple effects. That's the butterfly effects. That's the, you know what I'm saying? So it's you and everybody and that you will ever come in contact with, and the role that you play in within each other's lives. So, I mean, there's definitely probably some merit to what you're saying.
Absolutely. Man, so it's so many different ways that we could take this thing, because like environment is, I feel like that's like the centerpiece of whatever shift we're talking about. Of course, if we're being biased like we are because we are here, of course we would want you to be in this environment, right? This is the environment where I feel like people are growing, people are changing, people are developing. People are finding their gifts. People are be able to use their gifts. But environment has always been one of those things. Like, okay, let's put it like this. We both work in the school setting with students, right? And there's statistics that say, like, certain environments, if you come from certain environments, you're almost susceptible to staying there or doing worse.
Yeah, it's a risk factor.
Right? I think I read a stat one time that said, like, if you're born into poverty, you only got a 4% chance to make it out of it.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Environment, right? And no matter what, one thing that I noticed, like when I started speaking at schools, man, I noticed that a person can change in the moment, right? But when they go back to their environment, they go back to who they were before, right? So speak to that for a second about people come here, right? They're tuning in. They're getting something, right? But then they have to go back to their reality. You have to go back to their environment. How can they start to shift when they go back from the church?
So I'm going to try to make this short because we got to get our first
Absolutely,
guest on. I'm going to try to make this short. So I wish I had a better way to say this. I don't have a better way to say this. So you need to shift your environment and shift your environment. Meaning, you need to shift your environment, meaning going into a new space.
Absolutely.
Right? That's an environmental shift.
Yep.
So if you are not currently a member of Abundant Faith, it would probably be a good idea to change that. That's a shift in environment.
Absolutely.
But then you need to shift your environment, meaning the environment that you have. We don't need to remove you from it. We need to change it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like whatever your address is, your address doesn't need to change. What happens inside of that address needs to change. So you need to both shift your environment and shift the environment. So yes, I can have an experience while I'm here at 3625, but when I go back to my address, am I then shifting that environment? Yeah. So am I bringing whatever shift that's taking place here back there? Yeah. Yeah. Or am I allowing what's there to shift me from what I experienced here? Right? And ultimately, that's a choice.
Absolutely, absolutely. Like, man, listen, we can go in even deeper on that, but like you said, we got our first guest, right? Are they ready? Are they ready to come on?
I think he's on. I think he's on. We're gonna bring him on. If we can, let me introduce him real quick. If we can't, hopefully we can get some video. Hopefully, but this first guest, man, y'all have never heard me use this word before, but this guy's a legend.
Ooh.
Like seriously, like this guy's a legend, and he is what we would refer to as an unsung hero, man. Like, you know, he plays the background, but he's essential. I'm talking about this ministry is not functioning in the way that it's functioning without this man.
Absolutely.
And he never says anything. He even often requests not, you know, for people to not know, you know, what he's done and what he's doing. But he's actually going through some shifts right now, and him and I had a conversation through text not too long ago, and I just kind of wanted to bring him on because he also, man, is a wealth of knowledge and wisdom, man. So I just kind of wanted to allow some of y'all to hear some wisdom from somebody that I'm able to gain some from. And I'm gonna bring him on real quick. Uh, the legend, the man, the legend, the chief, Daryl Hayden. Let's
Greetings.
see if he can do it. Hold on, yeah, hold on. Work with us, y'all. We trying to. Hey, listen, it's hard. It's hard to produce and host. I'm not even gonna.
Yeah, we need a
I'm not
producer.
even
We
gonna
need
lie
a
to you.
producer.
I'm not even gonna lie to you. Okay, here we
Greetings.
go.
We hear you. We hear
Okay,
you.
okay,
Yeah,
greetings.
I don't think the cam's gonna come up at the moment.
Oh, it's
Okay,
all good. We can hear your voice. First of all, how you doing, Chief? How you doing? We miss you here. Let's say that. Let's wake
yeah,
that up for a second. We
yeah.
miss you
Yeah,
here.
yeah, it's mutual. I miss y'all too, for sure. I am doing well. Progress is steady. Feeling much better. Surgery was a success, and I'm on track. I'm on schedule.
That's a blessing. That's a blessing.
Man, listen, I need y'all real quick, man. I need y'all to like put some fire, put some
Oh, but
hearts,
I don't know if they can put the
everything.
fire because he might have to put it out. You know, he is the chief of the fire. That's a corny joke, but he is the chief
Bad
of the
joke,
fire
bad
department.
joke.
You
But
know what I'm saying?
he's off duty right now.
Okay,
He's off
okay.
duty right
Yeah.
now.
Chief, don't ring the bell. All right, you ain't gotta put your helmet on. It's just fire signs in the chat. That's all.
Okay.
So
Good enough.
Chief, we brought you on to the Talk Your Shift segment of the podcast, right? So I want to ask you as we bring you on, what's a shift that you're looking for God to do in your life in 2023?
Hmm. Um, well, I had texted Pastor after the New Year's Eve service, and his sermon was about finding the it. And I texted him back and I said, I believe I have found my it, for what it is that I need to shift in my life in the coming year. And I don't know if I want to discuss it right now. I think I'd just rather wait and do it.
Right.
Um, but that message resonated with me because, no matter what position you are in life or what station you may be, I'm sure there are things, if you seriously reevaluate yourself, you could say, I could do this different, or I could do this better, or maybe this is in my way, or maybe that is in my way. And that night, that sermon uh, reached me to a point where I started to think about, you know, um, I've had a great career. I live a pretty comfortable life, but what is it, or where is it that I could do more or be better? And it it caused me to reevaluate some things, and I reached some decisions.
Absolutely.
So Chief, without sharing too much, because I absolutely understand, the importance of the timing of when you share certain things. So without sharing too much, could you possibly let us in maybe on some of the things you might be doing to prepare yourself for the shift?
For me, it is almost entirely mental. The preparation needed. You're raised a certain way. You grow up in a certain environment. You have certain standards and beliefs and things that they've been this way all your life. This is my bedrock. This is what I know. And sometimes you have to just have faith and step away from your comfort zone.
Mm.
So it's all in my head for me. I need to learn to separate myself from some. It's like a kid with a security blanket. There comes a time when you have to let that go. Um, and that's some decisions that I'm having to make, that there are some things mentally that have always been my safe place, my security, that is maybe not benefiting me anymore. So it's time to learn to break away from that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the whole mental aspect of things, that's really interesting because sometimes in the faith-based space, um, we can over spiritualize some things and under spiritualize other things.
Yeah.
Right,
Um,
right.
so like what has been, or what do you anticipate will be sort of the blend between your mental preparation and what that looks like in partnership with some potential spiritual growth?
Right. So um, I guess that's the unknown. That's the stepping out on faith piece. But um, if I can convince myself, be it through, you know, uh, prayer-based life or whatever it is, to make myself move forward in a new realm, then my hope is that it'll lead me closer to Christ. It'll make me stronger in every way of my spiritual life and make me even more beneficial to the Abundant Faith ministry.
Absolutely. So, Chief, I got a question for you. When you first came on, you were talking about how for your shift this year, that you want to continue to progress, right? You said you've already achieved great things in your life. You already in a place where you said you have that comfort. When I hear you say that, I hear you basically speaking about raising your standard, right? Or keeping the same standard, but like progressing your standard, and also hear character. Since we're talking about environment, what environment cultivated that in you? What environment instilled you wanting to continue to raise your standards and continue to progress in your character?
Great question.
Yeah. Well, undoubtedly, my parents. I was very blessed to be raised in a solid old school church-based family. Dad paid the bills, mom raised the kids. Church every Sunday, choir practice, the whole 9 yards. Church boy all my life. And my father was, I would call him a stick to it kind of guy. You commit to something, this is what we're going to do. He worked the same job with the Postal Service for 35 years, retired with great honors, great success in his career, was a great example for me of a Christian husband, father. Kept his head down, did his work every day, kept a clean household, raised a good family. So, as I came up and began starting my own life, my own career, it just kind of all seemed natural, that this is what you do. This is the way you do it. Now I've been in my career for 38 years. I've actually surpassed his record. And it always seemed to come natural, like parenting, fathering, or whatever, because I had such a great earthly example.
So you had an environment. Your environment was structured so that you were able to naturally flow into it for yourself.
Yes, for sure. And it's amazing how my life and his paralleled quite a bit. He was a dad late in life. He was about to turn 42 when I was born. And I'm his first and only child, or was his first and only child. He's been gone for a while now. So all my friends in the neighborhood, their parents were in their 20s. My dad was in his late 40s. So my household was more like living with my grandparents than my parents. It was a much different environment. Everything was a little more settled, less chaos, less stress about whatever young couples are stressing about. So it was like a real Zen environment in my household. If I wanted to, cut up and act a fool, then I'd go across the street to one of my buddies' houses. And then ironically, as life turns out, I wind up not becoming a father myself till I'm 40, just a year short of when he fathered me. And at the time of my son's birth, I was kind of in the same place that my mom and dad were. We were further along in our careers, were able to offer a more stable environment, less chaos in the house. Again, not stressing about some of the things that younger couples stress over. So to hopefully the cycle continues in my son. You know, he's kind of had the same benefit as a young man that I did when I was growing up.
So talk about that real quick, Chief, man. You know, of course, we know here at Abundant Faith, we know, but as we talk about that environment, what your upbringing did for you, and what you are hoping that your son's upbringing does for him. Tell us a little bit about where your son is right now. Tell the people what's going on with Junior Chief.
All right. Well, my boy is he's 20 years old. He's a sophomore at Purdue University, Fort Wayne. And he is a baseball player. He's attending college on a 50-50 baseball and academic scholarship. So he's on a full ride.
Okay.
Mastodon.
Yep, Mastodon. That's right. Moving into his sophomore season, coming up in about 3 weeks, and things are looking great for him right now. You know, he's moving up in the pitching rotation. The buzz is there, the hype is there, and we're just excited that, you know, God has blessed us with him, and he's a great student, great kid, great athlete. Excited about his future. Whether baseball takes him anywhere or not, we'll never know. But he's a great student. He's getting free education out of the deal, so you can't ask for much more than that.
Hey Chief, we're gonna let you go, but I need you to give a piece of information that's gonna hype Destry up real quick. You showed me a video of your son in the weight room. What was that deadlift number that was on there?
700.
Oh, he put me to shame. I don't even want to meet that. I don't even want to see him. I was gonna hit the applause for him, but now I'm like, boo, boo.
Yes, 700.
He put me to shame on the 700. Listen, why you need to do that? He just pitch. Ain't he a baseball player? Why you got to be in the 700s?
That's the new world. They go hard, man.
Hey, look, what's ironic is that's the same thing Chief said.
Was it why you got to hit the sevens?
You don't gotta do all that. Man.
Oh, you're right. I told him that too.
Sevens. I don't even want to be in the gym with that man. Listen,
I
want to hit the applause. I'm gonna hit him anyways, though. I'm gonna hit him anyways. I ain't gonna hate on him. I'm gonna hit him anyways.
Yeah.
Well, we know you proud of him, Chief, and man, we're praying for you constantly, man. For the shift that's happening for you, praying for your recovery, praying for whatever it is that you're talking about. We praying that God, you know, that you get everything that God has for you, man. And so,
yes, sir.
Man, we thank you. We appreciate you. We thank you for your time, man, and we can't wait to see you back in the house, man.
It'll be soon. I'm not physically able to play at the moment, drums that is, but I can still move and sit. So I'm about ready to show my face.
Okay, we're looking forward to it.
We can't wait to see you. Chief, real quick before you get out of here, can you give a quick word to anybody who's listening to right now or attached to Abundant Faith? What's one thing that you would tell them in order for them to receive the shift that's going to happen here in 2023, if anything?
Well, first of all, get connected. Get connected to the Abundant Faith family. Several months ago, Pastor, you preached a sermon about the blessing of being where God wants you to be when He wants you to be there, being right where you're supposed to be. That was another impactful message for me. That was months ago, but obviously I can still recite it because it was impactful. And it hit me hard because, again, I was connected to the same church all my life, and happenstance led me to Abundant Faith. And it turns out that, that is right where I was supposed to be when I was supposed to be there. So, Destry, to answer your question, so if anybody else wants to get involved in the shift, the first thing is to position yourself where you need to be. And right now, Abundant Faith is the place where I feel God is moving me towards. And I would encourage anyone who wants to move forward, better their lives in the coming year, to come and get connected.
Absolutely. I love that answer. Yeah, I love it. I love that answer. Like Pastor said, we can't wait to see you Yeah, we can't wait to see you and have you back. We love you and we appreciate y'all, or appreciate you. I said appreciate like I'm in the pod. We appreciate you. We need to see fire signs in the chat for Chief, right? We need to see fire signs in the chat for Chief right now as we transition into our we got our next guest.
Let me see. All right, Chief, man, you go ahead and get you some rest, man. We got to get you recovered so you can get on back in here. You go ahead and get you some rest. We appreciate you for tapping in with us.
Hey, thanks for inviting me. I wasn't expecting this. When you said come on and talk about the shift, I didn't know you meant literally. But glad to participate.
All right, man. We appreciate you.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So the next guest, man, we getting ready for him. We're gonna keep it moving, man. I'm really blessed. I'll say this, man, to be able to hear somebody else say that abundant faith is where you need to be, right? Yeah. Like, obviously, I'm gonna say it.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? I say it every Sunday, and of course, that's my belief. But to hear somebody else say that, the impact, and you said it, just earlier, to hear somebody else mention the impact that this ministry has had on their lives, man, it's huge, man, and I'm super, super, super grateful for it.
Absolutely. And like he said, you got to get connected, right? Like that's a simple step, man. Sometimes we just overlook the simple stuff, right?
Yeah.
The most simple thing is for you to get here, 3625 South Emerson Avenue, or to log to click on the website. Now listen, if you live in the cities, you need to stop clicking on that website. I'm just gonna be honest with you, right? You just need to come on down. I know it's on the south side, whatever. Listen, you need to get here. Before we bring on the guests, real quick, I do want to go in this direction really fast because I wrote this down, and I can't remember the first time I heard you say it. Mm-hmm. But it's profound, and I think that is super important for those who are listening right now, whether you're married, in a relationship or not. You said in your marriage, neither one of you are basically allowed to be off at the same time. Right? Yeah. Like not like this is a major key, right? Because I think sometimes when things are going awry, mm-hmm. when things aren't happening the way that we want them to happen, and we're in an environment with people, right? Like, you can be going off, I'm going off at the same time. You see what I'm saying?
For sure.
And that's never helpful. For sure. Right? That's never helpful. That's one thing that I loved about the military. Like, some of us over here could just be losing our minds, but there's a centerpiece somewhere. Speak to that for a second about having someone, whether you're in a relationship or not, having someone that they're the centerpiece and not off when you're off.
So I think that's super important. Like you said, with them in the military, like, that's not even allowed, right?
Right.
I feel like one of the reasons why it works in marriage, and I'm just gonna speak from my point of view. The reason why it works in marriage is mainly because it doesn't put all the pressure on one person.
Right.
Okay. So in our household, it is one individual can, like, both of us just can't be all messed up at the same time. Like, so
right,
that takes the pressure off, and it allows for me to have my moments. Mm-hmm. It allows for my wife to have her moments. You know what I'm saying? All of that is allowed. We just have to be conscious of how that plays out, how that looks, and making sure that we have each other's back. Now, I'm gonna tell you. I'm sorry, y'all saw me walk off. We had to take care of some stuff, but y'all get this live.
Listen,
man.
y'all
get everything that comes along with live.
Listen, there's a production slot open, right?
Yeah. So I think the God factor in that, though, is it's not like we playing tic-tac-toe or rock, paper, scissors on who gets to flip out this time.
Right.
Like, the God factor is God gives each of us the grace to when the other one is kind of like flipping out. When one of us is flipping out, the other is at peace.
Yeah.
When one of us is flipping out, the other has some insight and some input.
Yeah.
That's the God factor. That is the effect of a proactive prayer life for your marriage. That is the effect of, being on one accord and two becoming one.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and so it allows for the space for both of us to, for lack of a better term, feel our feelings.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't ever have to feel like I can't be upset.
Right.
I don't ever have to
Right.
feel like, I don't ever have to pretend with my wife that I'm not worried. I don't ever have to pretend like I'm like, even as the head of my household, there are times where I gotta be like, all right, listen, babe, I don't know how this is gonna play out, but this is what we gonna do.
Yep.
Like, I'm a little nervous about it. I'm not really confident, and you know what I mean. But this the best I got right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I think that you cannot, and even going back to the environment, right? Like, you have to have an environment where, again, even for your marriage and for your relationship, prayer is proactive, and covering your spouse is proactive, and supporting your spouse is proactive. All of these types of things, encouraging your spouse is proactive. And so all of these things are happening so that when life starts lifing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you have, and this is what I teach in my coaching groups, because I'm actually doing this accountability series even in my coaching groups right now. I'm just not using a biblical text to present it, right? But even with this idea of accountability, right? I tell in my coaching group, a part of accountability is making sure your account is able to handle the transactions, right?
Hold on, where am I dropping? I don't know, because you talking crazy right now.
So you have to be able to make sure that your account can handle the transactions. Your account has to be in a positive, just like your bank account. You swipe and swipe and swipe, and if you're not putting nothing in it, it's gonna get ugly.
Yeah.
Right? So even in your life and your relationships and interactions, you got to make sure your account is able to handle the transactions. So you got to be putting stuff in ahead of time, right? Like, if I never encourage my wife, or my wife never encourages me, when there comes time for correction, your account ain't able to handle that. You see what I'm saying?
Preach
so this is
You know what I'm saying? Hold on, let me hit it again. They ain't hear it. preach up.
So
You know what I mean?
this is super important to understand. So when you're establishing a particular environment for your home, like my wife and I, we had to, and we do this periodically, like we had to sit down and decide, like what type of household do we want to have? Like, what do we want the environment of our home to be? Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And so we balance each other out in so many ways. Like, for example, when the kids is over, if it's up to Aunt Kia, ain't no rules. But if it's up to Uncle Jay, we gonna be, you know what I mean? It's military.
They gonna be in their soldiers.
You know what I mean? So
You
we got so even in those ways, right? Like, we
Right.
balance one another out, and but again, like, she can say, babe, you been a little bit too tough on them, because her account is built up where when that type of transaction happens, I can handle that.
Yeah.
Right? But if she's always going against everything I say, even something as simple as, like, babe, you've been a little too hard on them, that can go left.
Yeah.
That can go way left real quick. You know, so that's a super important thing. And I was trying to talk for a long time, see if we get our guest in, but I don't know what happened.
Listen, we can wax deep on this one right here,
Let's
because
go. Let's rock.
I'm thinking about a few different things with this, right? Because on one end, we're talking about accountability, right? Which is a thing that a lot of people avoid, right? You don't want nobody around you challenging you.
For sure.
You see what I'm saying? Like, and if that's you, like, first of all, you got to be able to assess that. That's number one. And that's a very hard thing to do sometimes, because I remember, I'm going to be honest with you, there was a point in my life where I thought if somebody was holding me accountable, like they were talking down on me or something, right? And I remember, like, it's crazy. This was back 2010, I believe. And I mean, my life was just like in shambles. I'm just gonna be honest. Like, my life was in shambles. I remember breaking down. I was listening to Todd Tribbett. All right, it will be all right. And you know when it does the transition, bro, I just broke down. I just melted in the car. I was on my way to Aaron's. I was working at Aaron's. I was making $9.
I remember when you was working at Aaron's.
Bro, I was working at Aaron's, right? First of all, they had me moving furniture in Tic Tac shoes. That's number one, right? I'm in dress shoes moving furniture, so I'm already depressed, right? But I remember driving to Aaron's and just breaking down. My life is in shambles, man. And you know me, like, I'm a high energy person, right? At least I try to be, you know?
Right.
Of course, I have my moments where I'm not that, right? But I remember going to drill. I was in the military at this time. I remember going to drill and I'm just off. Right, and I remember you talking about isolation. And I got to write that down. I kind of isolated myself.
Yeah.
Right, and one of my sergeants, and at this time, like, he was kind of a mentor to me, but we weren't like brothers yet.
Right.
Because he's a higher ranking guy. I think I was a private at this time. Like, technically, when you're talking to a sergeant, your hand, you know, on hands behind, yes, sergeant, no sergeant, you know. And so he approached me, and I went to do the parade rest, and he's like, "No, I'm talking to you as a man right now, right?" And he was like, "Yo, what's going on?" And I'm like, I'm giving him the list, like, man, this happened and this happened, and he just looking at me, right? And as the list goes on, you know, I'm waxing deep. I'm like, man, this is going on, and this is going on, and my wife is pregnant, and all this stuff, and he just looked at me. He said, "You done?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm done." And he was like, "You sat in that seat." Yeah. And I'm like, "Oh, hold on now. Like, I thought you was going to have some empathy. I thought you was going to be, like, compassionate." He's like, "No, you chose that. Like, your life is where it is because you made decisions. You had habits. You had certain things that you were doing." And at that time, like I said, in my life, like, accountability was kind of like a foreign thing. But he held me accountable, and I'm going to be real, like, that changed my entire life.
I want to read you this quote. I had to pull it up because I literally just read this today, just scrolling. And it says, "Y'all so used to people being indirect that clear, direct communication is aggressive." So what you were talking about people holding you accountable and you perceiving that as them talking down to you, like, that's what that post really speaks to, man. And so it's definitely key to have, you know, people that hold you accountable, but for you to be able to hold yourself accountable.
Absolutely. And like I said, that literally changed my life, and I always thank him for that. He don't even remember saying it. That's the funny part. He don't even remember saying it. Like, he really went deep. Like it's the military. I can't say these certain things here on, because, you know, they talk a little crazy. But basically, he told me I made those decisions, and that made me look at myself. So I'm saying that to say, don't run from accountability, because it will change the way that you're doing things.
And you want your environment to be an environment of accountability.
Absolutely. Okay, so we ready? We got the special guest in the background. Listen, y'all getting a twofer today.
A twofer,
right?
Man.
A two, like what they say at the Patriots game. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Papa going crazy at that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, man, this next guest, man, another friend and brother, man. He's not a stranger to the Abundant Faith family
at all.
But definitely someone else that I believe can provide some insights. One of the things that you may not know about this individual is he's actually a licensed therapist. So
we might go.
Yeah. So perspective is definitely going to be a little different. So you get the biblical aspect of things, and then you get a practical aspect of things. So right now, man, we're going to bring on my brother, my friend, the Pastor Orlando Jordan. What's going on, bro?
Man, I can't call it. How y'all doing?
Man,
doing
no
good.
complaints at all. No complaints at all.
Let me hit the applause for you real quick as we bring you on. We want to make this like a real show. Let me hit the, you know. You supposed to beat on your chest or something while it's going on. You know, you supposed to.
Yeah, hey, listen, put some fire in the chat for Pastor Orlando Jordan, man. He's a busy man, but he said he will rock with us tonight, so we appreciate him for joining us. Listen,
Absolutely.
man, I know you had tapped in with us on episode 1. I'm not sure if you had an opportunity to tap in again, but as you know, we're using this podcast as an opportunity to talk some shift. And tonight, we pretty much been focusing on the shift in environment and how important that is. Whether that is moving your physical environment and shifting that way, or whether that's making changes to the environment you're in and shifting that way. So we got some questions.
Oh,
We
come
ready to
on, man.
run them
You
up?
already
Let's
know.
run them
You
up.
already know. I got some questions. Okay. Um, so Pastor Jay I think he just talked about this last week, actually. Um, when you get into a place where you're being held accountable, right, and it's uncomfortable for you, you kind of have this feeling of wanting to isolate yourself or run from the accountability. Can you talk about why it's important to face accountability and actually take in what's being said?
So one thing that I talk about a lot is you can't fix what you refuse to face. Um,
He talking
and
crazy
so
already.
more times than not, when we choose to run away from the things that are holding us accountable or the people that are holding us accountable, um, we are doing ourselves a disservice because just because we've made a mistake, just because we dropped the ball, or just because somebody loves us enough to say, hey, something's off here, it's not necessarily a bad thing. And so we should be grateful that we have people in and around our lives that love us enough to tell us when we're shifting in the wrong direction.
Mm, mm,
So to stick with the theme of y'all podcast, if you're at a red light and you're driving a manual vehicle, if you shift incorrectly, you can reverse and hit the car behind you instead of moving forward.
mm.
So now you have an insurance claim instead of getting to the destination that you were trying to get to in the first place.
Right.
Wow. So I really want to. I'm gonna backtrack a little bit
Yeah.
because
Go
you
ahead.
you mentioned you mentioned shifting the wrong direction, and one of the things that I wanted to avoid this year, because this is our
Hmm.
theme for the year. One of the things that I wanted to avoid was giving the false hope that every shift is going to be forward this year. Um, so can you speak to how to prepare for some shifts that might not be, because let me say this. You mentioned the manual vehicle. Now let me say this. I don't know how to drive a stick, y'all. Um, I'm trying to learn. I really want to learn ASAP. Because there's some cars that I'm interested in that I'm gonna need to know how to do that. But from what I understand, when you had a red light in a manual vehicle, the car has a natural tendency to kind of go backwards really quick before it goes
Hmm.
forward, right? So
Hmm.
like sometimes, so our life might look like that, right? Like we in drive, but in order to go forward, you gotta take a quick step back. So can you give us some, I guess maybe some practical steps to prepare for, some of that backward movement?
So I'll put it this way: as many steps forward as David made in the Bible, he made a number of steps backwards to get where he needed to be as well. Um, and so all of our movements aren't going to be forward. Sometimes God has to take us backwards to move us forward. And sometimes that looks like where God will have us move back away from people, from situations, from opportunities that we think look good, but aren't necessarily for our good. Um, and that's okay too, as long as God is at the forefront of how I'm moving. That is going to be perfect for my life.
Mm-hmm.
And so people shouldn't be afraid of backward movements, because if God is moving me, if He's telling me, no, I need you to go here, I need you to move there, you're gonna be all right. In Second Kings, the seventh chapter, if I'm not mistaken. You got four lepers that are sitting at the gate of the city, and they have a choice. They got to make a decision whether they're going to stay where they are and die, go back into the city where the famine is and die, or surrender themselves to the Amalekites, and maybe they'll let them live, and maybe they won't. Life is about choices, and every choice that we make has a consequence attached to it. And so, what we really need to make sure that we're doing is being cognizant of the fact that God is in the forefront of what we're doing and seeking His face as we're moving forward, or especially if we're having to go backwards. I definitely need to hear from you, Lord, because our natural inclinations is as humans is to move forward. That's what we want to do. We want to go forward into opportunity, into new jobs, into new homes. If you're single, into new relationships, all those types of things. And so I really need to hear from God when I'm moving backwards, because wait a minute, I thought I was doing everything right.
Right. So speak to really quick, because I know I mentioned that you are not only a licensed therapist but a practicing licensed therapist, and I know you do a lot of family therapists. I know that that's your area of expertise,
Mhm.
um, which means that you are what we would consider to be an expert, what society would probably consider to be an expert of relationships, right? So whether that
Mhm.
be romantic or whether that be platonic, whatever the case may be, um, elaborate on the thought that just because a relationship is shifting, it doesn't mean that either individual is a bad person or anything like that. Like sometimes shift happens.
Mhm.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Um, in relationships, you have to be cognizant of the fact that both of you are always learning and growing prayerfully. Otherwise, that means you're stuck and stagnant. And so you have to love that person and accept that person on every level of growth. Um, and that's going to come with shifts. That's going to come as life moves forward. And so just because we have to be cognizant of the fact that just because I love this person in year one and who they are, they're going to grow. They're going to become different people in certain aspects of their lives. And so as those life shifts happen, we have to be willing to accept that person for who they are and who they're becoming. Um, I know Jay, you've been married a number of years. Y'all have children, um, and there are probably things that y'all experienced in year one without kids. That now is like, man, that was crazy. I can't believe we did that, but it made sense in the moment.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure.
And so as we learn and grow, we have to be willing to move and shift with our significant others, and be able to be accepting of what God is doing in their lives.
Absolutely. I seen you
Absolutely.
taking some notes, man.
Oh
What you got
man,
over there?
listen. I'm writing things down right now. Listen, if y'all not getting nothing tonight, I'm getting something tonight. Um, so
I'll, I'll
I
send
want to
I'll,
stay.
I'll send you an invoice.
Oh, I gotta go. I
Listen,
gotta
you're gonna have to write that one off, Doc. You're gonna have to
go. Send it to Pastor Jay. That's all you
it's
gotta do.
charitable service.
Um, so staying in the same vein of therapy, right? You talked
Mhm.
about um as a as people, we always want to move forward. We always want to progress. That's kind of like a natural human instinct. But at the same time, as humans, we're kind of stubborn and tribal, right? Meaning that sometimes we stay when we should go, and then sometimes we go when we should stay. What are some of the deeply rooted reasons why we are so reluctant to change or of environment?
Okay.
What are some of the deeply rooted reasons to that?
So at the basic level, it is our instinct to survive. And so when we understand the situation, when we understand, so just to be plain and simple in life, I might be in a toxic relationship, but I understand the toxicity, and I'm unwilling to move into another relationship where there are unknowns, because I know this toxic, and if I get a different type of toxic, I might not be ready for that. So complacency and comfort play major roles in our desire to stay where we are and keep the status quo of our lives. Because if I know that I can wake up at 5 o'clock, shower, be at the gym by 5:45, get my hour and 15, hour and a half workout in, shower again, change clothes, go to work. We like our routines. And when you disrupt somebody's routine, that's when people say that they woke up on the wrong side of the bed, or their day is all in disarray. So now they're disheveled, and they're having a bad day, for lack of a better term, all because we've ruined their routine.
That's my language right there. I'm so regimented, man. Like, yeah,
Let me
especially
call
like the
let me
first part.
let me
Especially
call
the first
Pastor
part
Jay
of
and
the day,
say,
I gotta.
let me call you
What'd you
and say,
say?
hey man, let me call you at the first part of the day and be like, hey man, I know you about to go work out, but I need you to help me do X, Y, and Z real quick. And
I would
then,
I would do it, but I would
yeah,
be
but
like in my head about it the whole rest of the day.
and real quick turns into real late, and then it runs you into another meeting. You're like, man, I didn't even get to work out today.
Exactly. I'm gonna complain
Orlando
about it
ruined
the
my
whole day.
day.
Not to you though.
And you know what's crazy about that, what you were saying about routine, right?
Hmm.
And how we can get stuck in that routine, and anything that goes against that routine can really throw us off. I was listening to Jocko. Remember Jocko,
Yeah,
Navy
yeah.
SEAL leadership expert on leadership, and he was saying that it's very good to have discipline and be very regimented and routine, right? But that only really works in garrison, meaning that only works in a controlled environment.
Yeah,
But when you go to war, you almost need the people that can go outside that routine
for
and
sure.
kind of get down in the weeds, right? And why I'm bringing that up is because, like you said, this year of the shift, and like Pastor Jordan also said, you may have to go backwards. How do you react to that?
Yeah,
You see what I'm saying?
yeah.
Because we never write that down. Like, that's never a part of the New Year's resolution. Like, I'm going 10 steps back.
Right,
You know what I'm
right.
saying? So it's almost like we're blindsided by having to go backwards,
For sure.
right? I want to ask both of you this, as pastors. Should we expect that?
I'll let the guest go first. Go ahead, man.
Man, I always build my team with rigid people and flexible people, because I like how y'all say a shift is gonna happen.
Yeah,
And so as your best plan is laid out, environment shift, people shift, circumstances shift. And you're going to need some of those rock solid people that know what the vision is and can stay grounded in that. And then you're going to need some flexible people that are going to be able to move uh, at the drop of a hat, when these shifts happen. It's important, man, to be regimented, yes, but at the end of the day, life be lifing,
Absolutely.
people be peopling, and
Things be thinking.
and listen, exactly. And so you got to be able to move with what's going on. Otherwise, you're gonna get left behind.
For sure.
Absolutely. Pastor Jay.
So I would say this, man. I would say my first thought is it's right now very trendy to say things like, oh, it's relationship over religion, and it's trendy to say stuff like that. And y'all have heard me say like both are important, right? Like we want you in church religiously, like we want you here regularly, we want you here, we want you showering religiously,
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like we all eat religiously, right?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So like let's not pretend like that's a bad thing, right?
Right,
Like let's
right.
not do that. I bring that up because one of the things that I learned, not even necessarily through relationship with Christ, I really learned this through religion. And it came from like the old church songs like at the cross, where I first saw the light, right? Which actually implies going back to the beginning. So sometimes even in our walk with Christ, right? Like sometimes you need to go backwards. Sometimes you need to go back to, and even Jesus teaches like we should approach the kingdom of God and the word of God like a child.
Right.
Like we need to go backwards sometimes. We need to reset sometimes. We need to take some steps back and review. Right? Like we need sometimes we should plan to take some steps back because maybe I need to, okay, I've been at it. Now let me step back and look at this thing and see if I need to make some adjustments, see if I need to make some pivots, see if I need to make some shifts, right? Like, and so I think you're right. We normally don't go into the new year saying, oh yeah, I'm gonna take some steps back, but maybe we should, right? Like maybe we should take a step back and say, what did this work?
Yeah.
Even if it did work, was this the most efficient way to get this done? Was this the way God wanted me to get this done? Right? Like, and so, so I think a part of 23 being a year of shift for us, one of my hopes and beliefs is that we will get to the point where we understand that taking a step back or taking a couple steps back is not always a negative thing.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's not always a sign of failure. It's not always like sometimes it's a sign of that accountability we talking about. Sometimes it's a sign of recalibration. Sometimes it's, you know what I mean. It's and really a sign of maturity. So, I definitely think that we need to learn to appreciate, embrace, and in some ways even plan to take a step back. To just evaluate. And sometimes you can't even see what God is doing in your life if you don't take a step back.
Yeah.
Like you need to take a step back and just be grateful for like how far he's brought you from and the vision he's giving you for the future and all of them kind of things like that's all important and it comes with, taking a step back.
Man, what both of y'all said is like super layered, right? And I just want to make sure that the people that are listening are getting this, right? Pastor Orlando Jordan, I love what you said, opening up that question with surrounding yourself around rigid people and flexible people, right? And I think that's something that we can adapt in our own lives, even though we may have a natural swing towards one side, like in ourselves, right? We're more rigid or more flexible. I think we should add both of those things to our arsenal. And I also love what you said about sometimes you got to take that step back to see what God is doing. In the military, I feel like now I'm going like on a military podcast right now, right? But we call that taking the high ground, right? And that's one of the advantages to winning the war. You have to get the high ground because whoever is on the bottom, like if you're on the bottom with the enemy, like you can only go face to face. But if you have the high ground, you can see them when they're coming. You can see how they're maneuvering. You can see what's happening. And you can also see some of your mistakes that you've made in the maneuver of what's going on, right?
For sure.
So take a step back sometimes, right? We say in business, sometimes you got to stop working in your business and work on your business, right? Sometimes in life, we got to stop working in our lives and work on our lives.
Yeah.
So I hope. Listen, I need to see fire signs in the chat. We didn't went too long. Pastor Orlando Jordan is here. We need to see fire signs in the chat. Or listen, I know I don't. Have you already ate, Pastor? Have you already eaten?
I haven't.
Okay, listen, he ain't even ate, right? So listen, if y'all not dropping no fire signs, we can just end the podcast right now. I need to see fire signs in the chat. Pastor Orlando Jordan, last question, unless you got another one. This is the Talking Shift podcast, of course, but this segment we call this Talk Your Shift, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's a shift that you're looking for in this year?
I'm as Jay said, it's kind of weird. I'm Pastor Jay at my church, so it's weird but no, I maintain a pretty busy schedule. And so this year, the shift that it's kind of funny we're talking about this, the shift that I'm doing is taking a step back from a number of boards and responsibilities that I've maintained throughout the year, in order to focus in some more specific areas that have been placed on the back burner. So I'm looking forward to strengthening some of those areas that I have kind of let stay by the wayside, and now I can refocus and realign my life in a new way. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Absolutely, I love that. That's an intentional step back.
Absolutely.
Man, I'm gonna have to reevaluate. I'm gonna have to listen. I got some notes. I don't know about y'all. I got some notes. Listen, Pastor Orlando Jordan, we appreciate you. At this point, like you said, you're family. You're family
absolutely.
here.
Absolutely.
We appreciate you for coming on. We respect your time, and
It's one thing.
to have you on the pod.
Is one thing I want to say. And Jay, this is why I love talking to him, because he has a gift from God to stimulate thinking in other people. And so as he was talking, I was sitting there thinking, would you buy a car that does not have a reverse?
I
No,
would
you-
not, no.
Not at all.
Would you buy a car that does not have a rear view mirror or side view mirrors?
Not at all.
It's just so as we're looking forward, it's just as important to look forward to see what's coming, but we also sometimes have to look in the rearview mirror of our life to see how far we've come and to help us make better decisions on if we need to take a step back or if we need to move forward. And so just like we wouldn't buy a car with no reverse and no rear view or side view mirrors, we can't live our lives only looking forward, but we have to sometimes take stock of where we've been to understand where we're going.
Somebody need to hit the organs or something. I need to hear. Listen, I'm gonna hit the air horn for you too. I was gonna ask you for like your last words for the people that's listening, but
I think that works.
yeah, I think that was it.
that
I'm gonna be
works.
honest. You was ahead of me. You might have been. Listen, you might have been you might have been a podcaster back in the day or something. I don't know.
You know, me and
All right,
another
bro,
pastor
man,
are
we-
starting our own. So yeah, you're right.
We appreciate you, man. We thank you for tapping in with us. You're more than welcome anytime, whenever you got some free time on a Wednesday night. If you want to jump in with us, man, just let us know and we got you.
Oh, next time I'm driving down and knocking on the door.
Come on in.
Oh yeah,
we got a seat for you.
we got another seat.
Listen,
that
we
goes-
got a seat for you. Don't even worry about it. Come on through.
Absolutely.
All right.
All right, bro. You have a good night.
Y'all too.
All right.
Listen, y'all. I don't know what else you want us to do. You know what I'm saying? I feel like, it's like, are you not entertained? You know what I'm saying? At this point, I don't know what else to do. Listen, y'all, this is the year of the shift. And I don't know if y'all feel it. I feel it. Like this year, like you said, like I think it's super important for us once again to reiterate this. You may have to go backwards,
Hey, listen, man.
but even that's a blessing.
Listen, the shift is happening whether you're ready or not. So just get ready.
I heard Lauryn Hill, ready or not, here I come. Listen, it's past my bedtime, y'all. Listen, once again, we appreciate y'all for rocking with us. Y'all could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with us. Tell them about Sunday, man. Tell them about Sunday, boss. Tell them about Sunday. What's going on here at Sunday?
Listen, man, we really, I know this might sound cliche, man, but we really just giving God everything we possibly can on Sundays, man. You know what I mean? From the worship to the word, man, we are literally pouring out everything we possibly can at the feet of God, man. And you know, I really hope and pray that everybody is being made better for it, man. That's all I can really say. I don't know how to really explain it. It's kind of one of those things, you just got to be here, man.
Yeah.
You just got to be here. And so we encourage everybody to come out. Like I say all the time, streaming is great, especially for those of you who are not in the city, not in the state, and apparently now not in the country. It's great, but you know, if you're able to make it here, man, like you got to get here, because there's a shift happening in this place that I believe you can only get in this place. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's what's going down on Sundays.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, you have to get down to 3625 South Emerson Avenue. I wish I knew how to speak some other languages, because maybe that's why it's not translated. Maybe I need to put it like in Espanol. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, listen, but they're going to get it, and then, you know what I mean, they're going to have to hear church from the parking lot, because you know, you're going to miss out. You're going to wait, and then it'll be packed out in here, and you be asking me, Pastor, when we doing a 12:30 service.
Yeah, and as y'all see, we do have a chief here, so he will keep the standard, right?
Oh,
the fire marshal, he's listening. He's going to say, okay, it's too many people here. Y'all going to have to go outside. But in all seriousness, y'all, we want to see y'all in the house 10 a.m. on Sunday. If you cannot get here for whatever reason, we need you to tap in with us, www.afccindy.com. Like we said, we're sending a huge shout out to everybody overseas. We got people in Ghana, people in Nigeria, people in Pakistan. Like, it's amazing what God is doing.
It's crazy,
let me ask you this. Did you ever see that happen?
No.
We got a Houston camp. Shout out to Houston. Let me hit the air horn for Houston one time.
Yeah. No, I never. No.
We global, y'all. So we want to see y'all here. Tap in with us on a Sunday. We would love to see you. Thanks again for tuning in. We do not take this lightly, that you guys will spend your time with us. Honestly.
Let me say this. This is, I promise, my for real last statement, not the preacher last statement. Listen, you need to go to afccindy.com and follow the connect link to YouTube and subscribe
absolutely.
to the YouTube page, because we're planning some content right now that will only be available on YouTube. We planning some stuff right now that you will not be able to stream on Facebook Live. Nope. You will only be able to get it on afccindy.com and on youtube.com. So please, as you log out of here, go log into YouTube and subscribe to the YouTube channel so you don't miss out on the other things that we're doing.
Absolutely, and like we said, we want to see you here. I'm going to say it again, just so y'all understand that we're not playing. Once again, we love y'all, and we appreciate y'all, and we will see you next week, same time, 7:15, for the Talkin' Shift podcast. Peace.
Y'all be blessed.
Preach up! Preach up!